to order. Karen, you want to go ahead and
Okay, I will. I'd like to convene the Reading Select Board.
okay, so
So we don't have people on Zoom, so I should say, so we have on Zoom Mark Dosser and Carl Bacci and Chris Healy and here in person Karen Herrick. Sorry.
so all right, so we can just go around. I know Jean's not going to be able to attend, and then we don't have anybody for us on there. That's terrific. I was hoping that we'd be all in person, so we wouldn't have to do a roll call for the warrants later. But okay, so why don't we go around? We can just do. We met last week. We'll do a quick round of liaison reports before to Colleen and do the RMLD update. So Jackie, any report?
No.
No. Marianne?
Just to say, if we get everything done tonight, then the ARPA subcommittee can meet in our slot next week.
Yep.
So let's go for that. We can get in another RAC meeting.
Anything for you, Jeffrey? No. Joe?
No.
Nothing from that's what I expected. We're blazing through. Cool. All right. So then we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the RMLD update. Thanks so much for coming in. Thanks in advance for sending. My email only blew up twice with the number of pages in that presentation. No, we're really looking forward to seeing the presentation and having the discussion. So thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.
So Jackie, if you can pull up the first presentation, Town of Reading below the line payment evolution. Thank you.
Good evening, Wendy Markowitz, the Director of Business and Finance at the Reading Municipal Light Department, and of course Colleen O'Brien, the General Manager. So tonight we'd like to take the opportunity to just bring you up to speed of the Town of Reading below the line payment and where it was and where it's come from there. Next, please, Jackie. Thank you. So there are two different payments that go to the Town of Reading, the above the line and the below the line. So I'm just going to give you a brief history of the above the line, which is the pilot payment, the payments in lieu of taxes. Since 1991 to the present, as determined by the 20-year agreement, the pilot payments are calculated at 2% of net plant allocated by the kilowatt-hour sales per town for each town, Reading, North Reading, Lynnfield, and Wilmington. This is a legislative, non-voluntary above-the-line payment. Jackie, sorry. Thank you. So this is just a screenshot so that everybody can just have it in front of them if they want it. This is 30 years of payments and how they've been scheduled, and you can see the kilowatt-hour sales percentage as it applies to the Town of Reading, and then the two payments each made one June 30th and the second on December 31st each year from 91 to 2021. Next, please. Okay, so then this is a breakdown just so you can kind of get an understanding of the relevance by town of the pilot breakdown for 2021. So we use the previous year's kilowatt-hour sales, 2020, and that's based on the audited financial statements. And then you can see each town and the kilowatt-hour percentage allocation. So Reading is nearly 21%. It's about $83 million of net plant that drives the 1.6 million of the allocated pilot payment by each June 30th and December 31st. So there's two payments to each town. Next, please. Okay, so the history of the return on investment payments, that's the below the line return on investment payments. In 1998, the return on investment benchmark payment was set at $1,560,414 to be adjusted in the subsequent years by the Consumer Price Index. of the previous year. This was a vote by the Board of Commissioners passed on June 8th, 1998, on the recommendations of the subcommittee for the payment to the Town of Reading and the Citizens Advisory Board. Therefore, from 99 to 2018, the return on investment payments were adjusted by the difference in the CPI percentage change from the previous year. In 2019 and through 2021, there was a slight change. So the return on investment payments were said to be frozen or held, if you will, by a vote passed by the Board of Commissioners passed on January 24th, 2019, to make the below-the-line payments for calendar year 2019 and 2020 at the rate calculated in fiscal year 19. And the vote was extended on May 21st, 2020 to go through with 2021 as well and hold the same vote. Next, please. So here's the history of the payments from 1997 through 2017. So you can see that they were based on the annual CPI. The annual CPI was derived by the Boston, Brockton, Nashua, and then that was discontinued and changed to the Boston, Cambridge, Newton, Mass, New Hampshire section. So you can see by fiscal year, and we continue to do it by fiscal year because that's the town's financials. They are split up between June 30th and December 31st, and it was based on CPI at the time. Next. And then here you can see 2018 through 2021, the same payment was made 4 years in a row, $2,480,000, based on the votes by the Board of Commissioners. Now this was based on a study in 2018, the convergence study, and it was also based on a memorandum from legal, the obligation of RMLD to make payments to the Town of Reading. That was in 2018 as well. Next, please. So now we have the new calculation formula, which was voted by the Board of Commissioners on May 21st, 2020, and this is more indicative of the health of the RMLD and the financials. So beginning June 30th, 2022, the Town of Reading below-the-line payment will be calculated by the prior 3-year audited average of kilowatt-hour sales per 3.875 mils. Next. And this is a schedule, so we can only do the best we can. So what we do is we project, an estimate based on our 6-year plan, which we present in October to the Board of Commissioners, October, November, CAB and the Board of Commissioners, and it is on our website, the calendar year 22 budget, and it shows our 6-year plan, which of course is a projection. We do the best we can to project those kilowatt-hour sales for you. But when we come up with the payments, it is based on the audited financials. So you can see in this schedule, I have unaudited financials because we haven't completed the year end yet. So you can look that line that divides the numbers. You can see the little asterisk. 3-year average kilowatt-hour sales represents the average of CY 19, 20, and 21, because we're in 22, so it's 3 years prior, and that would be 527,454, split in two for the year 2022, fiscal year 22. So those are below-the-line payments that are voluntary, and of course, we have stated that they're pending non-catastrophic events, and they're projected based on the estimated kilowatt-hour sales. And this is pending weather, catastrophic events, and electrification contributions, because kilowatt-hour sales are driven by those elements.
And that's, and Wendy, that's still a projection because you don't have it's not, the last year's not audited.
It's unaudited. Those are figures that should not change, but you would never know.
Right.
Right.
Pretty close, but
Yes.
but not, kind of increase the consumption.
Right.
Then, it'll be gradual because you're taking the 3-year average. So like even if you have like one big bump in 1 year.
Get.
Gotcha.
And the below the line is only for the Town of Reading.
Below the line. Okay, gotcha. Perfect. Thank you. I got that confused. Thank you.
I had a question.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
When you do your projections, is commensurate with what we've seen?
I actually can't speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, they do the projections are now based on electrification, because when we did the 2000,
Usage or
we can take data analytics, we're gonna feature habits into that area to try to allow our assets to continue to work so that things don't get overloaded.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Totally. Yeah,
Thanks.
totally makes sense. So just
Here, so it tells a story, you know what I mean, like.
and so is getting back to the answer that you were saying before about like the like, what's the weight between the data that you actually collect and know? Like, again, the number of cars, electric vehicles that you have on your.
So based on how often the meter collects the data, you'll be able to get those analytics and we'll be able to become a lot more. Right now, so when I came, we had kind of a point to point on the meters, they were not smart. And so we did a mesh network overlay, which is, it bounces around so the meter can take a couple of hops if something's blocking it, and we have collectors in the field. But time of use meters were not able to be modified in order to keep up with the new system. So what the consultant's gonna look at is it better to keep going in the direction that we're going, which is taking meters and putting in these inserted modules, or go with a completely different system? And based on all the things that we want in this criteria, like better analytics, is what they're gonna be analyzing. So we're in all of the electrification, there's a lot of electrical phenomenon that's happening as well, that we wanna make sure that the quality of the power is there too. So it's just taking us into the future for the right type of technology for where metering is going. And as you know, I mean, meters back 20, 30 years ago may have lasted 10 or 15 years, but just like iPhones and stuff, we wanna make sure that we're getting the type of meter that maybe we can do cloud updates and really allow the customer's money to last a long time. So that's why we're taking the time to do the, to do the RFP.
So what percentage of town has time of use meters now?
I don't know that exactly. We've got little over 30,000 meters. We've got about 3,000 of them that are not communicating, but most of those are commercial. So we have time to use commercial as well. I'd have to give you a breakdown. I don't mind doing that for you, but I don't have that with me tonight.
Just
So
random curiosity, so it's,
to just see who's signing up.
I mean, so time of use, right? I mean, I don't think I have a time of use at home, and so, I don't pay attention to when I run my dishwasher, right? So, in terms of trying to push us towards green, making everybody have time of use is probably, what's gonna kick me to say, okay, I really should schedule my thing
Yeah.
to be run late at night instead.
The new one, the new rate that we actually just put in, the A3, it really gives a big difference. So it's only like 8 cents in the middle of the night, and I think it's 24 during the day, which is pretty cheap because I live in National Grid and it's 31 cents all in all the time. So municipal utilities do a great job with helping out customers with keeping the rates low. But that contrast really would push you towards buying smart appliance. A few years there that was very flat and mild. So weather is the biggest factor in kilowatt hour sales.
So inflation really doesn't matter.
Not as much as weather, and most of our customers are fairly stable. We do look at usage to make sure that we don't want to catch a customer that might be kind of
Challenges as far as, whether it's adoption or being creative with rebates, or, is there a technical, kind of obstacle in front of you that's gonna impact, kind of operations or costs, associated with that? Really kind of the overall drive, everywhere, towards more electrification.
well, we look at the projections to make sure that, like, transformers, so we have to adjust, some of our maintenance programs and capital projects for the supply chain issues, but I mean, so far everyone's doing a really good job with the planning. But yeah, that's really the only technical thing, is just making sure the equipment isn't overloaded. I think we're doing a good job with that right now. I mean, if all of a sudden everyone bought a heat pump today and everyone bought an EV today, yeah, I might have a little problem.
Exactly right.
So I'm not saying slow down, I'm saying that the pace that we're projecting that minimum in order to have hybrid and supply chains like that, where
Sure.
you may normally think that something like that could be designed and installed in a few months, takes twice as long.
Yeah.
So it's little things here and there, nothing
Nothing major, for
nothing
operations.
that we're not handling at this point, but I do think that that's gonna catch up with everyone.
I got another question too, sorry, but I'll pause so I don't monopolize it. Anybody else have any other questions?
as well. So now we feel like we're going forward, we have a good projection handle on it. We just, I guess we didn't anticipate the participation that we had.
So it exceeded expectations as
It
far
did.
as,
Yes, it did.
people wanting to be able to
Right.
do that. I gotcha. And is that covering more, because I know there's a lot of them, does it cover more, you finding more adoption like solar versus electric vehicles versus smart appliances? Is there one driver out of that or a couple or?
It goes through based on what we're offering at the time. So for a while, it was actually commercial lighting
Gotcha,
that
okay.
was a big piece of it. And now I believe the heat pumps are a big piece of it.
Yep.
And we also have the electric vehicle chargers as well simultaneously, and the rebates are and the lawn equipment. So it's all.
No hands.
Actually, can I just ask like more general information, right? Like behind the scenes, like what's the breakdown of like the sources for like the electricity? I know I've seen that published, but like right now, like what's the current status?
We actually have our portfolio online, if you wanna take a look at it, we've got the charts that are up there. Because there's a big change coming up next year, so if you look at the chart, if you wanna take a look at the chart, and I'm glad to call you afterwards. We've got a lot of projects, so if you wanna take a look at it
Okay, no, that's fine, yeah.
I can send you an email of exactly where to find it on the website.
I think I've seen it like before, I'm just curious, like, because, we all wanna go electric, but then behind the scenes, like how it's being sourced, so.
Yeah, we were actually ahead of schedule from the new climate law. And
It doesn't impact us, it's
Yeah,
just
we
the
don't touch
payments
it.
to us.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Okay.
Some
I know, good, no, but I like to see the numbers going up, it's fine, thank you.
Thanks again, Colleen. Thanks, Wendy. Really appreciate it.
It's amazing that there was still so much nuclear.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of slides.
No, but
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there was a bunch of
I
slides.
know, I was bringing up their whole capital plan,
You
but
need like 3 days to go through.
that's why they have their own
Still pretty
board
low.
covering them, we don't.
Yeah, a lot of it was like a
gonna
lot
change.
of their accounting
It's gonna
stuff,
change.
which
It's just,
What's happening in
get the little
Salem.
puny
still,
payment
we'd be
get,
here
that's
tomorrow
all.
night at the same
Yeah,
time
Salem
if we,
will be shut down, right?
we'd roll right into the candidate forum if we,
It's good, yeah,
just take it out.
Where'd you get that on the
On the website?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll share it with you.
It's like,
wildlife, they'll go to this.
okay, well,
Alright,
I'll
thanks.
just pass the slides.
Yeah,
right, it is, I
That's
know,
when everything-
I know, yeah.
Could you pull up the warrant, Ms. Jackie? Thank you. Report, they just finished at the Performance Arts Center.
But these reports are all gonna be written,
They're
submitted.
gonna be either written or pre-recorded, as we said, per parking lot. So the parking lot for CBS and the parking lot for 50 Haven, I wanna say. It's and the
About widening it or not widening it or something?
in the enterprise fund, we're asking for in FY '22 the addition of $400,000 to keep the Walker's Brook water main going and adding water main repairs in Emerson. I think Bob touched on that earlier, and essentially is that in FY '21, I believe, some money was borrowed from another project to cover the emergency work in Walker's Brook. And then on sewer, we just opened our bid for downtown sewer main work, and we are a little over budget of $150,000. It was originally a $1 million project, and we're expecting it to be 1,150,000. We are going to on the water portion of this project, see if we can get a little creative and apply for some grants. We're having those conversations right now. Okay.
So I mean, but we have an extra 800,000 in the water enterprise fund, is that, I mean, where does that money come from? Is that
Reserves. From reserves.
from water reserves? Okay.
From water reserves, yeah.
Create the water, the reserve fund, right?
Well, every year, the water reserve fund is certified just like regular free cash, so as we close out fiscal '22, there'll be probably more free cash or certified surplus, as they call it, for enterprise funds for water. So right now, we've got about 2.6 left of what was already certified. I would say that at the end of fiscal '22, based on performance in the fund, we probably have some sort of regeneration there, so it's hard to say, how much regeneration. So we have enough for both of those transfers currently, and I would imagine we'd have some regeneration.
Okay.
Hi, this isn't related to water, but I'm just flipping through.
Yep.
Is there someplace in the budget, and maybe Sharon knows this, where FinCom reserves is getting replenished? Because we've been, don't we like to keep it at 200, and we've had a couple of recent payouts on it.
Ms. Sharon, do you know that?
Is it later on in
Should
another?
be on Article 5, but it could be that we've missed it,
I
so
think
we
we did.
should look at that. If we've missed it, we can make a modification here, but I believe that it should be on Article 5, so if we don't have it, that's definitely something we should be adding.
Good catch, Marianne. Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta look
Very
out
good
for us
catch.
here,
Something that Bob would always make sure we did, so I apologize about that.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know what we're at. I think per my notes in the last meeting after giving some money for the snow, and I think we're sitting at 53.
If I could step back to the general fund thing, so
The Parker roof was more immediate and it was a strategic thing. I think
like what,
80K for COVID tests end up coming out of the ARPA funds and not out of free cash?
They did come out of ARPA, but because FinCom had already voted their vote, I had to record the vote as it was, and it goes back to free cash, so it's kind of an in and an out. So the expense actually went to ARPA, and so we'll have a turn back to free cash that's equivalent kind of to the 80,000 that we asked for, and so it's just kind of a technicality.
Got it, thank you.
It's like double paid and now we have to reimburse.
Sharon, I got a question too on the FinCom, the 200,000.
It gives us flexibility at the end of the year if something comes up and we don't realize that something's gonna run over. FinCom having
big snow blower in the downtown.
Yeah.
Like they go and they blow it. So what Jane and her team are saying is that an attachment on a loader is smart. I'm hopeful that we can fill that gap with Jen on that.
Okay.
Put $250,000 of that into OPEB, which would give us $350,000 in OPEB for this fiscal, and the rest essentially to balance out with the remainder of items that we have in here. So just scrolling down, I don't know if anybody has any questions on the specific items, or you want to go through them in detail.
What is tech buybacks? Under the GS 90.
Yeah, so Sharon, those are essentially
answer that. It's vacation buybacks for somebody who retired in the technology department.
it's-
So when you see buybacks, it's when we owe vacation time when people are retiring or departing from service, so.
Okay.
I think there's a typo in the capital. That should be Article 4, not Article 3.
Yep.
This article is the one that we need to add the
FinCom.
147 for FinCom, so it ends up being 468, I believe, for free cash instead of the 321 if we scroll down further, so.
and I see fiber network repairs showing up in G92 and in the water enterprise fund, W99,
That is correct.
so we're kind of splitting it.
Yeah. So essentially, it's this is fiber repairs. So it's Ethernet repairs, and it connects the SCADA system. So the computer systems that runs the water and sewer pumps, right? What we essentially did is we allocated into the buckets. So like basically into thirds. So one is in technology, one is in water, one is in sewer.
Okay.
Third.
So under H92, a housing production plan consulting services, so we did a housing production plan, I think, in 2013. I guess if Jean Delios is on the call, she would know.
Yeah.
So we're just totally updating that plan now?
That's right, and as Jean explains it to me, it's a requirement to stay up to date with the state, and particularly with I don't know if you heard about the MBTA
Oh,
communities.
yeah, right, that's.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot in this town since 2013, so.
Yeah, one proposal, one idea is that if a town has a housing production plan, right, we're gonna ask, for some consideration or a waiver or something, but that's, the idea is to have some meat on the bones that to show that we're doing our part.
Okay.
And then the just below that, it's $50,000 for planning services. I'm sure you know that there's been a lot of talk about the two properties that we own, Simon's Way and Oakland Road, and what we're proposing is essentially to get some design money to start doing some outreach, some renderings, right, of the area, like what it looks like, and to speak to the abutters about what are possible options in those two properties.
Fidel, J91 is similar to the other buybacks that Sharon mentioned in G91. That's just straight buybacks for fire and then OT for fire.
That is correct. That is from retirements, right, Sharon?
Yeah, retirement. So if people leave and have vacation time, or even if they've been here long enough and they have sick buyback, it would be the combination of the two. Most people don't get sick buyback, but there are people who are still grandfathered in. So most of the time it's vacation time that we need to pay out.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say that on that line, we spoke to the chief, right? I mean, quite a bit about his projection. I mean, this is essentially to.
What's in the budget already handles it.
Could you answer that question, Sharon?
Yeah, I did projections looking at fire, police, all the departments that look like they could potentially have some issues. If they did have buybacks, they had enough extra in overtime in other areas within their salary budget to absorb it, where fire did not. I think fire has minimum manning, so when they have people on disability, they use a lot more overtime because they have to have that minimum manning. So I think we do see it more frequently in fire that we need overtime. Not to say it doesn't happen in police, but they seem to be okay. Their budget, when I projected it out, seemed like there was sufficient funds.
Well, also we heard last time that the police was at full staffing, right?
Yeah, they've got less issues, I think, with.
Did you jinx it?
Staffing, all the bodies aren't in, but yes, at full staffing.
Did you didn't jinx it? You didn't jinx it after your which line it refers to?
So it would be F99, Jackie. If you want to add a row, Jackie, and just call it F99, FinCom reserves.
I think you have to refer to where it is on the spending scorecard, and that's the line we use. So if you look at the normal budget, and I don't have it in front of me. Oh, actually, I did. Hold on a second. I'll tell you what line it is.
It's F99.
F99.
Yep.
Yeah. So that way, there you're referring to the correct line, the way we voted. Yeah.
And then we're adding the title, Jackie, is FinCom Finance Committee Reserves.
Yeah.
And then we're adding plus 147 into it. Thank you.
99.
With all the inflation, who knows, it may end up being needed by June for some other thing, so it's good to have. Hopefully not.
Sharon, just a quick question for you. And I don't have a point of reference for the last couple of years handy. And I don't even know if they're necessarily a good proxy, but is this kind of level of adjustments in current year, is this kind of in line, or does this seem like go ahead.
We tend to do a lot at April town meeting, because we are a little bit more confident on our health insurance numbers, so you will see quite a bit of moving around of figures for April town meeting just to get things right and to add things in that are needed. When we do our budgets, we don't have a lot of excess, especially in the areas of salaries, so we do tend to ask for buybacks at the end in April, depending on how many retirements we have. We seem to have a lot more than I can recall in recent years, but we definitely have had more in other years. But so that's the time we wrap things up, as we start to see that we had retirements during the year. Because also when we're building our budget, we don't usually have the luxury of knowing that people are going to leave and that we're going to have some buyouts that aren't budgeted for. So yeah, this looks like a very typical year, though. It's not uncommon for us to use this kind of free cash. And we do usually have very good regeneration numbers, so it's usually not problematic.
I just wanted to check. Thanks, Sharon. And then for this one, when we get to it, this one is just, we're just voting on the entire article, not each individual one of these lines, correct?
Yeah, you'll just vote on the article, and then for each article, I think you'll want to assign a FinCom person to do the presentation. Somebody will get up and say what the vote was and what day we voted it and that sort of thing.
Exactly. But on which one do we actually?
So the one that you'll vote line by line is the fiscal
FY
23
23.
budget.
Gotcha, okay,
And you'll
23.
use the spending scorecard, so you'll say B99 and you'll say the amount
That's Article
and you'll
18.
vote it.
That's what I thought, okay.
I mean, I think we've done it in a variety of ways, but typically that's the way we'll do it, is go line by line. Or you
Nope,
could
I
do the
just-
whole
I-
budget if people
I
wanna
was
do it.
thanks, Sharon. I was trying to make sure I had them right. I didn't think we did it for this one, but just wanted to check. Any other questions on, and is anything on the, some of these I think we already talked about on the enterprise fund though. Is there any more that you need to add on that, Fidel?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions on Article 5?
Great, yeah, I'll just keep chugging along. So Article 6 is an article that has to transfer funds from any prior year's bills. Sharon confirmed that we don't have any this year, so that motion is gonna be tabled. That article is gonna be tabled. Article 7, it's the OPEB line, which essentially is from Article 5, right? I mean, and what we are saying, and I believe in the one you have, there's a typo. What we are saying is that we are going to fund OPEB at $350,000. So what we are saying is that OPEB is going to be for a total of $468,000 and $500. $468,500. So there's a typo in the one you have. The one on the screen is right.
So where's
It's in the second, bottom of the second paragraph.
yeah, I have it.
It's
468.5.
318.5 in the printed copy.
Is it?
So the one on the screen is essentially the 250. On the one you have is 100.
Got a newer version.
Goes to 350 for a total of 468.5.
For some reason, maybe I have a dupe of yours. I have 468.5 on mine, and he has 318, so.
Wait until April. We always do it in April, and then if there's extra money in health insurance, which there was this year, we increase the number. And taken this number down, because of the pandemic to 100,000. We're normally somewhere in that 500 to 550 range. So we're hoping that we could add money back, so it's kind of, for the general fund, OPEB liability is like, or the annual required contribution is like $2 million. So where we changed Article 5, we had to change Article 7 because we had 100,000 in the general fund for OPEB, and then we changed it in Article 5. So I'm not sure why FinCom will not give a report on this, except that it was already kind of part of the budget. But I always thought that you did give a report on it, so that's where I'm a little confused
I'm
with
looking
that.
at last year's budget.
I
here,
think in
we
the
did give a
draft it should
report
actually
on
say
Article 7.
TBD, not no report, so.
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry
we're
about that.
I think that's all it is. I think that's the case.
I was gonna advocate that we would vote on it anyways, just in case, just because it sounds like something that we would do, and should do. And Sharon, just on that piece of it where you mentioned where we took it down to 100,000, I know we talked about this. When do we resume going back to 500?
So the fiscal 23 budget that's proposed has 500,000
That's
back,
what I thought. Okay,
I believe.
that's good. That's what I thought.
So we were resuming back to where we were prior to the pandemic, or close to where we were. We might have been at like 550 prior to the pandemic, but 500,000 is kind of the minimum we've been trying to use in our budget each year.
And this is the one too where it didn't materially impact the year. We're now between FY29 and FY30 as far.
Yeah, so OPEB is other post-employment benefits, so this
Yep.
is health insurance and retirement. And this is not mandated by the state for us to fund, so we put as much as we can towards it and get ahead of it. The pension is set to be fully funded by 2031.
That's what I'm sorry.
It was 2029, but because we were forced to make a lot of changes to our discount rate and other modifications to assumptions, it increased our liability by like $10 million, and we only had so many years left. We were so close to being fully funded that would have been a very big boost in the number that we would have had to pay for the remaining years. So it pushed us out a couple of years. But once pension is fully funded, the hope is that we can redirect more funding to OPEB, because what you'll notice is OPEB for the enterprise funds is fully funding. We're fully funding, and we'll probably be fully funded in the enterprise funds by the same time as the pension. But the general fund OPEB liability for every year is like over $2 million, and we're putting 500. So we're kind of behind on the funding schedule that they do for us every 2 years. So we hope to redirect funds once we get pension fully funded, so that we can get this liability taken care of as well.
And Sharon, do you have any sense like how we are compared to other towns, like for like the 8.1, that ratio?
We were in the upper third of our peers when I did present something to the select board recently. And what was interesting, there was a question that Mark had asked, because I had shown them some data that was given by PERIC, and the most recent actual valuation was as of June 30th, 2020, but we had our recent GASB 74-75, which is the in-between years. And it was for the following year, and the liability for our OPEB actually went down by $10 million. And he asked me the question, and it just didn't ring, like, what could that be? But it actually had to do with the fact that a couple of years back, Bob and the PEC, they actually had done a lot of work to get people who are post 65, meaning they're older than age 65, who were not on Medicare. So we had retirees that were over 65, and they were on our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, which is not cost effective. Our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan was pretty expensive. And so we worked really hard to get all of those people on the Medicare plan, and then they got the MedX plan, which is the supplemental plan, which is a lot more cost effective. And that took our liability down by $10 million. So that was a very good move. Because it was shocking to look and see the numbers, and Mark pointed it out quickly, saying, wow, that liability went down by $10 million. I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. But it was the first actuarial report that showed the actual decline shown by that change, moving all of our people that were over age 65 that weren't already on Medicare into Medicare. And it also helped with our health insurance premiums, because the average age of the membership within our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan went down. And so our premiums were, in some years, the year it happened, I think it went down, our premiums. And then they've been very, very low increases since.
So insurance last update to the select board, she shared a list essentially of where we were compared to our peer communities and also statewide. I mean, and statewide we're definitely top third. In our peer communities, we're in the middle essentially.
Joe, I'm not sure if this answers your question, but I have remembered seeing, if you Google the Middlesex East, like they did an article, this is February 4th, 2022, comparing, and Reading is one of the peer communities where we stand on OPEB. So if you just Google Middlesex East OPEB, you can probably get the article. And it's like, like it compares us with Burlington, Reading, Stoneham, Tewksbury, Wilmington, Winchester, Woburn, and it's really dismaying to see you can be glad you're not Stoneham. Because I guess like they only put 5,000 a year into their OPEB, where we're putting 10 times that typically. So it explains it pretty well too.
Okay, great. So we'll change that to a report by FinCom.
Yep.
If you can change that, Jackie, that'd be great. Article 7. And then Article 8, it's to see if the town will transfer funds received from the Commonwealth from March Smart Growth. We are not receiving any funds. So that is in the table. Article 9 is essentially the same article most years, except we're adding more property. So if you look at Article 9, what is bold is essentially given us the option to modify that fund, right? We asked our town council if we have to do this every year, or could we just say all properties? And she said that it's more prudent to list them out specifically. No changes on the revolving funds in this article, and what we are doing on the bottom pages is explaining the balances, explaining some background as to like what they're for.
So at the end, I know that we're adjusting the article for the pieces that are in bold. Nothing else changes.
In this article, nothing else changes.
And then so there is a finance committee report, but there's no dollars are changing.
Sharon, can you confirm? Go ahead.
Every year we have to approve the spending limits for these revolving funds that fall under this section 53E.5. So you'll notice that you see this every year.
Yep.
The difference here is just that the bolded projects are being added. So for the inspections revolving fund, only certain projects do we actually put the permitting fees in there, and they're larger projects. And so that we have access to that funding to help to monitor those projects however we need to, up to the spending limit that's been, already approved. And so those ones that you see bolded are just projects that weren't there prior that are large enough that we do want to use the inspections revolving fund. So that needs to be approved by town meeting, but also expenditure limits for each one of the revolving funds are being approved.
And so these expenditure limits that are in there now, are they, and these haven't changed either?
Yeah, they're the same as they were last year. There's no changes to the spending limits. They're the same ones we voted for fiscal 22. They're for fiscal 23.
Right, and then, from these individual revolving accounts, there's no data that we should be changing the limits, or so we're fine keeping the limits the same?
Normally, if there's a need where we feel like we need to, in recent years, we have increased the inspections revolving fund, but normally Jean, the department head who is most heavily involved with that, or the town manager would request It's the town manager who has the spending authority, but a lot of those projects have to do with Jean's department. So she would let us know if she thought she was gonna bump up against that number, that 250. I think it used to be 200,000, so if those numbers aren't gonna be sufficient, usually there's a conversation prior to this.
Gotcha.
We have not heard any requests, so if there was a problem, I think we would have heard, but it's.
No, and so again, some of my questions are just in anticipation if there's questions at town meeting.
No, it's been I'm looking back at like the fiscal year 21 budget just now, and was 250 then, so it's been 250 now,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years.
Again, some of these questions that I'm thinking, I'm trying to think what someone might ask or amend, possibly on the floor, so I just trying to understand that. Thank you.
Article 10 is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund allocation plan, which similar to Article 9, it has to be voted on every year, but this is essentially the same article as last year. So we are not making any changes to the spending plan. We're not recommending spending of this fund this year either. Great. Article 11 is a new revolving fund.
Fidel,
Yes.
can I
Sure, go ahead.
just make a comment?
Somebody.
Can we go back to that for a minute? I think there was some additional edits on this. It's a lead community, there's 5 communities. So Woburn should be in there as well.
Which,
Yeah, I thought we did that. Yeah. If you can do that, Jackie, that'd be great. So it's Wilmington, so it's Reading, North Reading, Wilmington, Saugus, and Woburn.
she said Woburn, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. So Article 11 is the creation of a new revolving fund. This is a revolving fund for the community garden, and as you can see in the background, it's essentially a way to receive the fees for plots for beds, and that the fee will be used to provide a mechanism for the Conservation Commission to generate revenue and expend it on utilities, essentially water and sewer, and other maintenance, such as operating expenses, equipment, and supplies. And this establishes a spending limit too.
Can I ask a question? So we have a Matera Cabin revolving fund, and now there's the Matera Cabin Garden revolving fund. So are the fees going up to, like, how are these both gonna be filled? You gonna split when you rent, someone rents Matera, they're gonna split the
No,
fee?
sorry,
or-
so the community garden is gonna be kinda like in the parking lot of Montera Cabin, so it's in the property. but-
So you pay to use that, or pay to plant there?
So that's an annual fee to get a bed, essentially.
I
right?
see,
So
okay.
if you get a bed, you don't get access to the cabin. It's a separate thing.
Okay, I didn't know if it was just when someone rents
could
the
bundle
property,
it
you
and
pay
then-
into.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, is there a bundled fee that you could, that you could
There's a
do?
bundling option.
Yes.
But no, so Montera Cabin is, if you rent the cabin, the fee goes into the other fund, and you'll see that that fund has 0 at the moment. So I don't know if we're collecting fees for the cabin.
Yeah, because I guess I had the same question because it says under the revenue source for the community gardens, rental and user fees.
Correct. So essentially, that the how the garden is going to be structured is that anyone that gets a bed, right? So I believe that as we start this summer, there's going to be 16 beds in the garden, right? And they will register with Conservation Commission and pay a fee to get a bed that season, right?
You're renting it for the
Whoever-
season.
Exactly.
So that's basically, so they're just calling that a rental.
That's exactly what it is, a rental.
Gotcha.
And I think it's $50 for a season. It's not much. It just creates a mechanism to pay the town for the water that's used and to if something breaks, it's a little fun for them to use.
You said $50 each?
I believe it's $50 per bed per.
I'm just comparing the, that'll bring in $800 and we have a spending limit of 10,000. Like, okay.
Sure, I mean, it is, yeah. It might grow though, I mean, we might have 1,000 beds in the future and, we're being a little visionary with the community garden.
Are they gonna be fenced off or so that when people, because the kind of, a lot of times it's youth groups and things that rent the cabin and then the kids kind of run wild and
Yeah. Jean,
run all over the gardens.
Jean spent a lot of time on this topic. I'm sure she can jump in here, but the there's some coordination that is going to have to happen, right? I mean, like one of the things we talked about was like if you're using the cabin and you're expecting to use the parking and a gardener comes, right? I mean, but we're hopeful that through communication with the gardeners and the folks that would potentially be using the cabin, they could do it. There is a plan to do fencing and it's mostly to prevent deer and other wildlife to eat the what's in the garden bed. Sounds good.
So it's just separate fees, that's really
Yeah.
concerns us.
Well, and again, but so just question, is this something, and I'm not sure who to address this question to, is this something that on the, from an article perspective, that someone could look to increase the expenditure limits?
To be honest, what we did essentially is and Gene and I and Chuck, right, who's our conservation agent, we talked about it for a long time. We essentially used the same limit as Mount Terra cabin, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, so it was precedent, right? I mean, clearly that cabin is not generating $10,000 worth of revenue, right? I mean, it was just it was a benchmark, and I mean, and will it change in the future? But potentially, but as a starting point, we thought that benchmarking against Matera cabin was a wise move.
Yeah, no, I'm just more thinking of that if there's any attempt, to change it, what the justifications would be. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Jeff's point, right? I mean, if it's not generating more than $10,000, that ceiling is way more than enough. I mean,
Yep.
And it won't make more than that for a long time.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Leanne?
Yes.
Jean has her hand raised.
Hey, Jean.
Hello. So I just wanted to jump in on the community garden. I have spent half my life on this project, and it's a great project. So I'm very excited about it. We've had a lot of conversations about coordinating between what's going on at Matera Cabin and what's going on at the community garden. It is a new project, so we'll probably learn a few things. But we do believe that the cabin is used. We're going to try and balance the two so that we're managing cabin activities to not be as highly used as when the peak season is and the peak times are for the gardeners. And we've created a gardener agreement that all the gardeners will be signing so that everyone knows what the rules are. And I think we will have a very successful project, and looking forward to this unique opportunity to do this. It's good for Matera Cabin to have more activity there, and it's great for the community to have this community garden project. So I'm excited about it and look forward to it.
Thanks, Jean.
Thanks, Gene. Okay. So the next three articles, 12, 13, and 14, are essentially easements, utility easements that DPW, namely Brian Percival, has been working on. I spoke to Ryan today, I mean, and you know, he assured me that in terms of easements, I mean, they're small in nature. So on Article 11, essentially, it's moving an easement from one to another, and there are no financial transfers required. These are going to be just paper easements that will not require any negotiation with the property owners or selling or buying.
But we'll still vote on these 12, 13, and 14. Okay. Any questions from anybody on the committee?
Sorry. Article 12, I see that we're abandoning one and getting a new one, so that would have no financial thing. But Article 13 says that we're going to try and get an easement, and I don't see where we're giving some.
Maybe getting it by gift, it says here.
Yeah,
Right, so we're getting that one by gift.
Maybe.
Maybe, no.
No, I mean, that's that is the main requirement, that there will be no financial transfers required for all these things. So on 11, essentially we're moving, right?
Okay,
We're
get that.
On 12, we're abandoning an existing drainage easement and accepting a new one, right, on the same property. So it's kind of the same. And then on the third one is related to the water pump, and this is the one that's you know, it's essentially it's to allow for a pipe to go through. I mean, and as Ryan explained it, I mean, it's tiny. It's written this way to allow flexibility to the select board, but in the case that some financial transfer is needed, it'll come back to you eventually. But we don't expect that any financial.
That would still have to come back and go in front of town meeting.
Correct. If any is needed at all.
If any money is needed,
He
then.
is very confident that no money is needed for these easements.
Well, and given what how the article is written, since there is no money, if there were, then it changes everything. Gotcha, okay.
And what's the history? Were these projects like targeted for 2024 or something? Or they just got delayed, or like 13 and
Yeah,
14?
the biggest one is 13, and that's the gazebo circle pump, right? I mean, and that's something that I think is in our capital plan. So you on the background on 13, right? November 2020 authorized to borrow $1.1 million for the booster station, right? I mean, and it's in the works right now, actually. And this easement is required to create a new connection.
And the same thing, I guess, with the other one, like the 14 was already planned too. It was already authorized.
Correct.
I think.
Exactly.
And is that one in the works too? Or?
Yeah. So the booster station is actually everything is on order, but it to be installed. Same thing with 14. The authorization is the financial authorization is for the purchase of the booster station, not for the easement itself.
Yeah. Okay. But the money that was already appropriated, hopefully, knock on wood, looks like it shouldn't change though.
No. So
okay.
On the booster station, it's under contract and everything is moving.
Yeah. Okay.
Article 15, Gene can walk you through it if you'd like.
No, thank you. No, thank you. We'll pass. No offense, Gene.
That's gonna
It's
take
just because it's 18 pages long, front and back.
So we will give it to.
I love to talk about zoning. I'd be happy to go line by line by line.
Yes, it's my favorite part of town meeting is zoning.
All right.
We'll save it for April.
We'll skip to Article 16.
Yep.
Thank you, Jackie. So Article 16 is actually related to RMLD. RMLD wants to buy some property at 251 Ballardale Street in Wilmington. And they, how KP Law explained it is they are not required to come to us for authorization because they're its own entity. And they received the votes required for the purchase, but they wanted to come to us as a courtesy, if you will. You know, I mean, just, yeah.
Yep.
Just so that it's but they you'll read here that this is paid by their own reserves, and they see no impact on the electric rates or on
Yep. Yeah, I remember this one from select board.
Do you happen to know is that where their solar choice installation is?
I do not know that.
What's there that they want that property?
A substation, essentially. It's a substation. Yeah. So yeah. No. I don't think it's for anything.
One of the solar choice things is on Ballardale.
Okay. All right. Article 17 is for Chapter 90, just to accept the state grant. They sent us a letter of how much they're projecting, which is $599,388. This is essentially the same article every year, just to accept the state grant. And Article 18 is the article that we'll talk about with the budget, accepting the budget for FY23. And then Article 19 is for any members of town meeting that haven't come to meetings to be removed. Everyone is reelected, so this motion will probably be tabled.
Well, so if they fail to take the oath of office within 30 days, that might happen, right? If they got elected.
But
30 days
it would be active
before town meeting.
in the fall. It would be active in the fall, right?
So we would put table that article over to her.
I think it would be.
It's unfortunate though, right? Because when you get to the fall meeting, then when you act on this, you say, okay, now we can get people, but it's the end of we always do it at the end. So, if a precinct has somebody that doesn't take the oath of office, then they can't fill that seat until after the fall meeting, at which point it's too late.
Yeah. The moderator has all discretions to move articles around. So I will mention this to him.
I mean,
Other than one precinct, every precinct has like almost double the number.
Right.
well, but if they get elected and fail to take the oath of office, then
Okay. So we made a few changes to Article 5, I believe. I don't know if you want to see it again before we vote on it, or essentially it was one change.
Yeah, I saw it
And it
with
was
the
adding the left foot
F99.
So, this is,
so the select board already voted on all of this.
The select board voted to close the warrant on March 1st.
Okay. So all of these changes are immaterial to the fact that they already closed it.
All of these changes, are not affecting what the select board did. That's correct. Yeah.
We don't have to wait for them to reapprove the changes.
No. Sharon, is that right? I think that's right. Sanity check from Sharon.
Did it last year?
Yeah.
FinCom's always the last.
Exactly.
approval.
Exactly, and these transfers for free cash essentially are blessed by you, approved by town meeting.
all right, so we should start with 4, not 5, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jackie. Could you go back to the warrant? Sorry, and then go to Article 4. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, couldn't unmute. I'm doing this on my phone, my computer died.
Oh.
I don't think there's anything that the select board would need to revote because the warrant that they closed doesn't have all the details of the numbers. It's just the standard, what's the purpose of each article that they're actually voting. So they don't, I don't think need to revote that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we close the warrant.
So Article 4 is the changes to the capital plan.
All right, so any further questions on Article 4?
So there was the question about the $200,000 in Birch Meadow site improvement that was moved out.
which is minus.
minus 200,000. And there was a question of whether that's specific to the elementary school or whether that's the
Is it part of the master plan?
master plan.
Well, I think it's ES for elementary school, just like
So,
ES
I
for
mean, it
roof.
says ES, but was that a copy and paste from the line above?
Yeah.
Yes, what it was in.
We'd have to bring up the capital plan to know for sure.
I mean, so somewhere we had some ideas that we were gonna spend some money on the Birch Meadow master plan and like put in those trails and the restrooms and things, right?
That-
Not for
yeah,
200,000.
Yeah, that,
Well, I mean, it was a start, we were gonna put
Yeah.
something.
the study has been approved for the capital plan for FY 23.
Is your question, Jeff, that whether this capital item is related to the school and not to the master plan?
Right.
That's your question, right?
What is that $200,000
I'm-
that we're
I'm-
not doing at Birch Meadow?
I'm fairly certain that it's related to
We'll have to get the budget.
school, because I don't think we've mapped out what would be for Birch Meadow master plan. That's part of what the site study is, like what we funded already. I think that was the other, a lot of the debate that we had before is that there was just a lot of different line items associated with the Birch Meadow master plan. And there, so it was trying to figure out the right way to be able to bucket them and prioritize them. I don't think it went to this level of detail, but.
I mean, it's also a big chunk of money that.
Yeah, no, I'll defer to any expert over my recollection.
Jeff, would tickets had moved out 1 year?
I guess.
Yeah, it's going
I
from
guess it was
24
just
to,
moved
it's
out
going
a
up
year,
from
so-
24 to 25.
Yeah,
All right.
it doesn't impact this budget, I guess is another way to look at it.
All right, fine.
Yeah. And I will check with Joe Huggins as soon as we leave tonight. To confirm what that was.
We need Jean here to make the.
So if you have, in the budget that we had last week, page 90 has,
Yeah, we're trying to bring it up and suddenly my thing's wanting to convert it to some other
has the
format.
capital improvement plan, and the bottom of page 90 has all of the Birch Meadow master plan pieces in it.
Do you see it broken out? Yeah, I'm looking at the same thing, I can't find it either.
Yeah, so there's
The
They
roof
just-
is pushed out, right?
Yeah, they just, and so then it's on 91 has, page 91 has some of the individual,
It doesn't break it out the same way or list
yeah,
it
it
the
doesn't
same
call it
way.
as
Yeah.
site improvements, but.
Yeah, I will ask, I'll get back to you on that.
Oh, actually, you know something? You're right, Jeffrey. So, if you look at that page, it's in that first, in the block on the Birch Meadow master plan, up to $10 million in total.
Yeah.
There is, 3 lines that have A listed.
Yeah.
They're all struck out. There is a $2 million now proposed as debt funding in FY '24 for phase A. And so, this is 200,000. I thought it was. I thought I had the right number, but so strike that. I thought it actually had the right number, but it's. I'm looking at a different thing. Then sorry.
Because it's 150 with both the master plan, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, master plan funding, when I look through the,
Sorry, is that master plan funding on page 91 of last
But
week's?
93,
Okay,
like at the top of 93.
yeah, there was,
That's 22 though, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
150 before.
Fidel, this is Jane.
Hey, Jane.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that in the prior capital plan under DPW, we had Birch Meadow improvements for a parking lot, sidewalks, walkways for 200,000 that was moved out to FY '25, so it was probably that.
That's it, Jane. Thank you.
Just take out
Okay.
the ES maybe.
Well, it's for the school versus.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, versus.
Thanks, Jane. Save the day.
Yes. Perfect. All right, good. Any other questions or comments on Article 4? All right, then I'll entertain a motion for Article 4.
Move to approve Article 4 in the warrant,
What do we say?
or
Recommend.
move to recommend.
Article 4 at the town meeting.
Okay.
You have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Since we are all here in person, all those in favor? Oh, love it, 6-0, here we go. Have to call out names. So then I need to assign, I figure we'll just go around the room. We'll just keep on.
We'll each make a motion to approve, and then we can be the one to speak to it maybe, I don't know.
Well,
Or whatever.
Yeah, let's just go, let's just kind of go around and then we'll, so we'll give this first one to Joe.
Because I've never done it before. This is an easy one, though.
So we can go to Article 5. So one question, again, I'm just gonna ask this out into the ether, I don't know who can answer it. So, we're gonna vote on all of Article 5 in its totality. Getting back to my point earlier as far as, could we now, or on the floor of town meeting, could we go into any one of these individual line items and change the number?
I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Or any town meeting
Somebody-
member could do it.
Somebody from town meeting could make a motion to change anything here, and then it has to be seconded, and it has to be approved by town meeting.
Gotcha, okay. But if we were to do it, here, how does that work, Sharon? Not that we are, but just out of
You could
curiosity.
make an adjustment here, if that's your right, you can change, are you thinking of changing something?
No, just out of curiosity, I'm more just thinking if we were to do it, because we would vote on it ourselves as we're recommending this final piece to town meeting, correct? That's how it would work?
Yeah, I mean,
Gotcha.
usually if you're gonna change it, you have a reason to though, like there's a
Yes.
line item specifically that you wanna change.
And
then you
I
provide
recall we did that a couple years ago when there was, I think something that, a position, I think it was, if my memory serves, it was like a health, an HR person during, like, right in the beginning of the pandemic. And there was talk to not fund that position, and we funded it. And I think
Yeah,
that's.
usually those conversations happen when you're adopting the budget and something got cut out. Maybe not specifically this article, but you could make changes to any article that you don't care
Gotcha.
for anything that's in there.
Perfect, that's good, I just wanna make sure that, I just, for clarity, once we're at town meeting.
But is that
I
binding?
mean, at
If we-
town meeting, anybody could look at this and say, oh, I don't wanna fund that and take it out, and if town meeting agrees, then it comes out.
That's, yep, that's what I'm afraid of, but yes, thank you. Is that, if we have someone that's anti-fiber network repair, that's what I'm worried about, is that piece of it, but.
But if we
They don't
say we want to
typically
double
change
it,
the recommendation on town meeting floor, it doesn't happen that often, but if people felt strongly about something, yeah, I mean, it could get changed.
Yep, gotcha.
But if we make a change now, then the warrant that the town meeting members pick up would have our revised number in it.
Because that's what we're
Yes.
recommending to them, yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yep, good, okay, that's
but
fine.
that's what they're voting on. They're voting on. what
They would be voting on what
So
we're recommending this article for them, and then that's what they would be
Yeah,
voting
it
on.
doesn't-
And then they're fully capable of, to
Modifying
amend
it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And they don't even have to vote on the change, they're just voting on,
They won't even know the change. They would just see what we're recommending.
Yeah, got it, okay.
Gotcha. Great, thanks Sharon for your help with that, appreciate it. And sorry to throw us in the ditch for a bit, but just curious. Any other questions on Article 5? Comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion for Article 5.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend the substance of Article 5 to town meeting.
Yeah, that's good, we're gonna go with it
Second.
from now on. Second to Mark. I like the way you, I like your phraseology. Thanks, Jeffrey. All those in favor? 6-0, that passes. Not passes, we recommend, that's 6-0, we voted to recommend this article too. And then, so Jeffrey, you'll have this one too then.
Article 6 as well. There's nothing to do, so. I mean, there is still a report, right, so.
Yep, so we will do,
So we'll do a report.
so should we do one for Article 6 even though we anticipate it being tabled?
I don't think so. I mean, it will definitely be tabled.
All right, that's fine. All right,
Not
so
gonna discover some one-year-old phone bill like it always seems to happen every year.
I hope not.
Well,
How's those bills, Sharon?
but if we do,
We have to approve 15
but
bucks
if we
or
do, we would just do it before, we would have a meeting
Yeah.
prior to town meeting and then we would tackle it.
Sharon has looked at that a
Yeah,
lot.
that's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, if I were to discover from that, between now and town meeting that a prior bill were to come in, we would have another meeting, or sometimes we'll meet just before town meeting so that you guys can vote on it before it goes before town meeting.
Yep.
And
that
at
makes
that time, you could assign somebody to give the report.
sense. Yep, yeah, that's fine. All right, so then we'll move on to Article 7.
So I have a question, Sharon. We have these liabilities for OPEB and pension, and we have free cash. Is there some reason that we don't like shift a little, in years where we regenerate a lot more than we expected? Should we be using more of that regenerated free cash to handle these unfunded liabilities?
I think it's just a matter of opinion, like it's hard to know, it's what would town meeting vote that, it's a matter of asking the question. I think a lot of bond rating agencies do expect a fair amount of reserves to be sitting on hand in order to keep our AAA bond rating, so that's a consideration, but where we do have a fair amount of free cash, that's always an option. We could always put an article out there and ask town meeting if they want to move money into the OPEB trust fund above and beyond, because we had great regeneration numbers. We haven't done it in that way, but it is an option. But I think it's a harder sell when you put big numbers into a trust fund because they can't come back.
Well, but I mean, to what extent do those same bond rating agencies look and say, hey, Stoneham, severely underfunded their liabilities, and that's going to be a liability for them going forward. So, if we proactively do this, it seems like, we either we have a bunch of free cash or we have, paid off these liabilities. So you add the two of them together, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you take it out of free cash, yeah, free cash is lower, but you have now funded your liabilities, and so you look better in that perspective.
Oh, definitely. It's viewed very positively how aggressively we fund OPEB, especially where it's not mandated yet to be funded, where the pension is mandated that we fund. So when the bond rating agencies are looking, they're looking at more than just that. They are looking at what level of liability we have for OPEB, for pension, how aggressively we're trying to fund it. But we are putting, funding towards it every year. There's to the best of our ability, $500,000 in the general fund. And like I said, the enterprise funds are fully funding their OPEB annual required contribution to fully fund within a certain time frame. So we're doing pretty well. Considering it's not a mandated requirement for us to be funding, because we know that liability's out there and we should be. So it's just a matter of opinion, would those funds be better in the trust fund for OPEB and less in free cash? I think bond rating agencies would look at them positively. I guess I don't know what that balance is. What's the right number you hold on to in free cash? How much do you move out of there and put into an OPEB trust fund? But that's why every year Bob usually would ask us to do this stuff at April town meeting, change that OPEB contribution the best we can based on any savings that we already have within that operating budget. And so that's what we've been doing. That's been the approach. But certainly asking to do it, after we know what regeneration is and move money there, that's always an option. We just have never taken that approach.
Yeah, and I'll just say that the liability is 73.8 million, right? So as a bonding agency, and you know a whole lot more about it than I do. I mean, yeah, you look at a lot of things, right? I mean, and would 73.8 versus 71.8, make a big difference? I don't know. I mean, it's probably reserves also makes a big difference, right? Like how much free cash you have on hand. Financial policies also make a difference. There's a lot of things that kind of play into this. A budget that is structured and looks good, right? I mean, also makes it a capital plan that's forward looking also makes a difference. And I think it's hard to say like will an extra $1 million give us a bang for our buck? I think it's hard. I mean, what I've heard from our peers is essentially like you don't want to be stoned, right? But so the as long as you're in the middle of the pack, right? I mean, of like communities, of peer communities, you're probably okay. But at the same time, I think to what Marianne was alluding to, like it's a balance between funding a future liability and funding immediate needs, right? I mean, and it's.
But I'm looking at the fact that we have a 7% reserve policy, and we have free cash well in excess of that.
And we have inflation and there's other projects. It's like an opportunity cost we have a plan to pay off the other thing up to 2030. Do we wanna stick with that plan like Winchester's doing, like other good peer communities, or we have other immediate things that the town meeting members now would say, hey, we could, do better things for our town that could make us pay more into OPEB later because we're covering costs at a better price before inflation and interest. It's weighing opportunities, but I think it'd be a hard sell to say, well, let's take away from the potential to supplement, full day kindergarten and all these things to pay into something that we're gonna just pay off in 10 years anyway, right?
And how many years is the 8.1% equate out to? Like, is that, like, if we didn't fund it at all, is that good for the next 8 or 10 years, So it's kind of your point, Marion, that's, should we be using it for more important current projects? But you said, Jeff, we should have a meeting on, the free cash and making recommendations, so.
I can mention one thing there. That number that you see there, the 8.1% funded, is out of our total liability. And that's our most recent full valuation that I gave you there. But we do get numbers in between. They call them the GASB 74 and 75 report. And that's where we saw that $10 million worth of savings on our liability. And I think that the funding percentage went up to like 13 point something with that $10 million adjustment in there. So we are doing pretty well. But it's all a matter of judgment in terms of where's the best place to put the funding that we had for free cash.
Good discussion.
So we still have to vote this article.
Yeah, we still have to vote this one. Any other questions or comments on Article 7?
Ed, Mark Dobster has his hand raised.
Great, thanks, Mark. Go ahead.
Hey, folks. Sorry, so actually between Marianne and Fidel and Mark, you covered it, a lot of what I was going to say. The only thing I was going to add is that in the historical perspective, in terms of that trade-off and bond ratings, so we have the highest bond rating possible. So there's not more you can do. You can't get better. And in the meetings of the audit committee, pretty regularly, we would ask, how are we doing? Is this okay? Is this what everybody is looking for? And the comment has always been, yeah, you guys are doing a great job.
Yep.
So just want to add that as perspective.
No, thanks, Mark.
Oh, if we have the highest, right, it's just Grady.
Cool. Want to give it back? Yeah, let's go for it.
Move to recommend the substance of Article 7 to town meeting.
Thanks, Jeffrey. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor? 6-0 to recommend the Article 7 to town meeting. And Mary Ann, you'll have, and so we're on to 8, which is,
To accept funds,
Which we expect to table.
we expect to table because we don't have any.
No report then? There's nothing. We don't have anything to recommend, because there's no money, so why would we recommend? Okay.
so we're definitely tabling 8.
And I can't believe with all the building, we don't have any money to table. No money from the state, anyway.
So then 9 is,
Just adding those additional developments to.
but then in the article,
That doesn't include the
So
garden. The garden is its own article, so this is just the existing ones.
yeah, but we're, even though there's no changes, just outside of adding the 3 properties there.
No need to recommend it.
Because of the
it's just
expenditure.
Expenditure limits.
Yep. Any questions on Article 9? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for Article 9.
Okay. Move that the finance committee recommend the substance of Article 9 to town meeting.
Second?
Second.
Thanks, Jackie. All those in favor? 6-0. I guess I'll take that one. All right, and then, so then we're on to Article 10.
So I imagine that this one is the same, right, Sharon, as that no changes are needed here. But we do need FinCom to vote on it as an allocation plan. No changes, no recommendations to spend, but it's a fund that's live.
Well, the one change that was adding Blueberry to the.
Sure. You're right.
Yeah, the change to, the
Yeah, she's got
background,
that.
using bluebirds in there, but it's an annual acceptance that has to be done.
Move that the finance committee recommend the substance of Article 10 to town meeting.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor? 6-0. All right, so then we're on to Article 11 and the gardens. Any questions on Article 11?
Move that the finance committee recommend the substance of Article 11 to town meeting.
Second.
Mary Ann, thank you. All those in favor? 6. Joe, you put your hand up, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, 6-0. Sorry, I just did, I caught it.
Fading.
Oh, I'm sorry, for 10, well, no, so at 10, Mark will have 10, sorry, I didn't give it to you, Mark, and then Jackie, you'll have 11. Now we're going to,
Sharon, on the easements articles 12, 13, and 14, do you think that that FinCom has to vote on it and give a report?
No, if they're not financial related, there's not usually a FinCom report.
And on zoning on 15,
I would say no to zoning. I think that you usually have, one of Jean's boards would usually give the presentation on whether or not they recommend the article, the zoning bylaws, or, but not FinCom.
we're at 16.
Gotta leave one for Jeannie, right? Give her the whole budget. 16 is,
on 16, I mean, I can't imagine these come before you often. I mean, Sharon, do you think a vote is needed for this one?
What is 16? I
The
can't see it.
RMLD property.
Yeah, 16 is the purchase for RMLD to purchase the property.
I think that it's a financial related article, so I think it's worth them. I mean, they're not asking for any debt or anything like that, but they're presenting it to town meeting. It is a financial transaction. I would say I would vote on that.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend the substance of Article 16 to town meeting.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. And all those in favor? 6-0. All right, I'll take 16 and then I'll to be assigned to Jean, Eric, or Andrew.
Assuming all of us are there.
Right. Right. So we're on to 17.
Move that the Finance Committee, I forgot my wording. Move that the Finance Committee recommend the substance of Article 17 to town meeting.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0. To recommend. I'll take 7. Again, I'll take these last couple and then.
Article 18 is the budget, right? And someone else want to do that one?
All right, so then for 18, now we go back to what we went through last week, right?
Ah, okay.
Spending scorecard.
Yep.
Which is page 14 in the budget. And we are both going by line.
Yeah, we're voting by line. Correct me if I'm wrong, we're voting by line, but do we make our recommendation on the total? Do we give so if we vote by line, we give a report by line?
Hold on.
I think you give a recommendation for the overall budget.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I thought. All right, so we'll take 19 just in case it's different, but
This from last year, yep. We were doing it over Zoom too, which was really tedious.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so then on
Thanks, Jackie. You're awesome.
thanks, Jackie, that's perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so within Article 19.
Article 18.
Is it 18?
18, sorry. Yeah, you're 18. You're right, it is 18, sorry. So, first line on the spending scorecard is B99. So, do we have any? Let me take a step back. Do we have any kind of questions on any of the lines as they're written? We might as well just get that out of the way up front. That way we can just. Plus we have all the department heads here as well. Again, so.
So I did have a question on the line K94, the street lights. This shows 130, but when I backed up a page, there was 150. Which was pointed out, last week after the meeting. Did you get an answer to that? Or?
Yeah.
Are you saying that the number that you see on the spending scorecard doesn't match up with the budget?
Right.
That's the question.
Which page, which
So if
thing
you
are the
back up one
streetlights?
page to page 13, line E1 says street lighting for 150.
130 for FY '23. 150 for FY 20.
Oh, you mean for how many different costs? Yeah.
So that's 150, that's 130,
But that's for FY 23 though, so.
but here it's, I'm supposed to help 130.
Oh, I see, so the past number was
I
wrong.
guess that's what it is, the past number was wrong.
So I think what it
It's actually
is the
going down.
FY 22 number doesn't match the FY 22 on the previous page. FY 23 is fine.
Okay, so it looks like a typo on the fiscal 22 revised budget, is that what you're saying?
I think that's what it is, yes. but-
Yeah, because it said 150.
Well, and it's also showing, you know.
Yes, I see what you mean.
but it shows
It's
year over-
150, so it's a typo.
But
So we can change that before it goes to the print.
because it does change the year over year percentage when you look at the next column.
Right, that must be all a spreadsheet at her end.
Yeah, it will just change if we change on the spreadsheet. But what you're voting is fiscal 23, so it doesn't change what you're voting. But yeah, for the accuracy of the warrant book, we want to change that.
We didn't have any other edits since last meeting, correct?
Not that I know of.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions or any on any of the other line items within the budgeting lines? All right, well then let's, then we can start at B99. So on this one, it's this, basically instead of listing it off as an article, you're just listing off the line.
So
As far as-
FinCom recommends a budget of $20,082,500 for B99.
Yes, or you could just say B99 as written.
Move that the Finance Committee approve line B99 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Goodness, we're gonna do this one of these.
All right, all those in favor? 6-0. So then we move on to C99 capital.
The Finance Committee approved line C99 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0. Now we're on to D99 debt.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend line D99 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend line E99 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe.
You guys have it going, just keep doing it. We'll
I'll
just
stop
review.
after this section.
No, keep going, you're good at
Move that
it.
the Finance Committee approve the recommendation on line F99.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Keep going. All right. Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line G91 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor?
6-0 for Jackie's benefit. And, no, I mean Jackie. who's
Oh, yeah,
making
6-0,
minutes.
sorry, sorry, Jackie, sorry, I'm now in the zone. Sorry, apologies, I'll verbalize that for you, sorry.
Thank you.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend the amount on line G92 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line H91 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line H92 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0, Jackie.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line I91 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line I92 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line J91 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line J92 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line K91 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Move that-
6-0, sorry. Sorry about that, Jeffrey.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line K92 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0, Jackie.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount listed on K93 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line K94 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line K95 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Get my order of operations out of the way. So, 6-0.
6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line L91 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line L92 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line M91 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line M92 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Covers all the municipal payments.
That's right. Really grown to appreciate the schools at this point in time.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend the amount on line U99 for the school department as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend the amount on line W99 for the Water Enterprise Fund as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line X99 for the Sewer Enterprise Fund as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee recommend the amount on line Y99 Stormwater Enterprise Fund as written.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Jeffrey. All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line Z99 for PEG access as written.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? 6-0.
Move that the Finance Committee approve the amount on line ZZ9, the Landfill Enterprise Fund as written.
Second.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Joe, all those in favor?
I would just point out there's a typo in
Yeah.
landfill. Didn't catch it. That's right.
Well,
You
in
didn't
the
catch
middle
it.
of saying my motion.
Yeah.
Jackie's on it.
That
That
doesn't-
was already corrected. That'll be right in the final version.
I'm just recommending the amount.
That's right. That's how it's spelled.
Nothing else on the scorecard, okay.
And I'll take 18. All right,
I
that's
just want
it.
to mention that for Jackie, now that they voted the spending scorecard, there's a column there for FinCom, so you would want to copy all the numbers over to that column so that it shows what the town manager's budget was and what FinCom approves. They show that they match.
Yeah, so, okay, so what you're saying, Sharon, is that in that blank column,
It says
We'll just-
FinCom 20,
Well,
FY23.
it'll just match what we put in for,
Yeah, so supposing you made a change, you
Yep.
would see a difference between what the town manager proposed and what you actually recommend.
Gotcha.
In this case, there
It's
would
gonna
be no
match.
difference.
Right.
But it gives them an idea of what the town manager brought to you and then what you ended up ultimately.
gotcha. Perfect. Excellent. thanks very much for everyone's efforts on that. We got through that fairly painlessly.
Thank you very much.
Just get the minutes.
Karen, did you want to adjourn the select board?
I would love to adjourn the select board. I believe Mark already dropped off. So Chris and Carlo, could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a second, Carlo?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so, let's see, we're ready for the vote, Chris,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
and Karen, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for joining. Appreciate it.
Good night.
All right, so we can move on to minutes from the 9th.
And thank you, Jackie, for making that minor adjustment.
You're welcome, thanks for catching it.
I don't want to take credit for something I didn't do.
Bye guys, thanks.
So any questions or comments on the minutes? Not appearing, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2022.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Second?
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Good night. Thank you, guys, can sleep.
Thank you.
All right, vote. In favor? 6-0. All right, do we have any, before we close, any other business? Anything else we need to raise?
So are we definitely don't have the meeting on.
We do not need to
Not
meet.
before our meeting on the 23rd.
No, that would just be now, it would be the RAC meeting. So we don't have any meetings now possibly between now and town meeting?
As of now, we do not have any meetings between now and town meeting. But I think the one thing that I would, will probably look to have one, something will come up. Usually
Something after the election or something?
Something will come up, so either the week prior or the hour before. We'll probably, that's typically what we'll use, but just be on the lookout for that piece of it. Again, nothing to anticipate, but that would be my only, but we'll circulate that in case.
Yeah, I don't know, we might get invited to another meeting too, like when they present the website to select, I don't know. I
Right.
don't think we have to go to that, but
Right,
yeah,
and
something will come up.
And we'll be posted, anyways, we'll be posted to, for the RAC meetings anyways,
Right.
So I think from that perspective.
Yeah, RAC is the 23rd, 29th, and I wanna say the 18th.
I think we talked about April 12th, maybe? And so next week you have the library reserved though, so the RAC meeting will be in a different place, and then I guess we'll coordinate where the 29th will be.
When's town meeting?
The 25th, April 25th.
Maybe the only, what did the RAC approve, or what is the select board approved for spending of ARPA?
Nothing yet.
So far, just the 80.
They've spent
just
some,
the 80.
they've spent some money of it.
Just the 80 grand.
No, but no, they approved the 250.
250, so for public health items, that's Sharon's
We
blessing.
said 80, but they said 250.
So did they talk about the water tower at all, is that been?
No, that's gonna be an interesting, thing, because, the town manager gave us the first, this is not on our agenda, so we can't really go too off on it, but I think the town manager said that there was certain borrowing deadlines in September that we need to keep in mind. And
We need to know by September, sometime in September, we have to have some lead time if we need to borrow that funding. So September. 'cause I think
Just as
that
just as a proxy, this will kind of fall back under liaison reports, but just to kind of give a refresher from what happened on last week's meeting. It was more just, for lack of a better term, it was more just kind of getting to know everyone as a new committee. And just kind of talking about charter, talking about process, and then setting the schedule. That frankly,
Right, no.
really not much help happened outside of that, which I think, again, the speed at which we got through our meetings for me, was really in order to enable to have more meetings for the RAC, just so that they can start to build up some momentum. And because you, like, progress, I think everyone is itching for progress. And I think it's, I think that the more times they meet as a body will facilitate.
I mean, yeah, and we may also determine that we have more than one output. It's not just one big final recommendation. It may be we have to do some ones on an emergency basis. I've seen that with some other communities that even Sudbury, I saw, like, they were approving money now for like summer school, and then they were gonna spend the rest, and they have a similar amount of ARPA money to us, so those are gonna be, we're gonna get those kinds of things. We're still trying to agree on the scope of the committee, cause there's,
So none of the opera needs to come before us?
No.
So we should have on the agenda, Jeffrey's brought it up before, on the, the free cash and just sort of, we kind of, it's almost like we run out of time when we decide to start talking about it, so.
Well, no, I
wanna
think,
add it on.
I agree wholeheartedly. And that was part of some of the discussion we had a few weeks back with Sharon's free cash projections. I think, in and of that, we should start to, have kind of a deeper dive into, kind of a
I'd say
deeper
put it on
discussion.
the agenda.
right, cause it really can't, I mean, it what's done with free cash can inform the RAC, but that's not really the charge of it, and per the charter, there are defined groups that spend and recommend
I'll
free
talk it
cash.
separate from the.
Right,
Yeah.
but we may gather information that may say, hey, we've learned about this set of priorities once we decide on how we're gonna get input, so. But I think, free cash almost needs its own working group or something.
Yeah.
I think,
I agree.
Yeah.
or inflation's gonna take care of it and there won't be any free cash.
Yeah, but I think that's, I think for our purposes, it's good to have that as a almost like maybe not a consistent agenda item, but a talking point that I think that we should revisit. Probably not until after town meeting, but in our kind of May meeting, there might be something, and by that time too, to your point, there may be some more things that are flushed out from a
Right, and I
community
think
priorities
The
perspective.
schools wanna have their community meeting at some point on full day kindergarten to get a sense of that,
So I think those are all
because that,
end up being
Needs some of
intertwined
it.
to some degree, so I think it's helpful. Any other, kind of items, any other business, any other future agenda items? That's a good place to talk about that, so. Cool, all right, well then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Mark.
Second.
Thanks, Jeffrey. All those in favor?
Wait.
9-0. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.